Okay, I don't know what happened right there, but welcome in everybody to another live stream here on the channel. We are officially a third of the way through the football season, so I thought it'd be a good time to stop and check in with everybody. But before we do that and to give some people a chance to get on here, let's do some housekeeping things. First things first, if you're watching this live or on playback later, go ahead and subscribe. We're over 900 subscribers. Let's get to 1,000. Let's just make this easy. We'll get it done this week, and you won't have to hear me talk about it anymore. So if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. The channel's growing. We're in the middle of football season. We're going to roll right into basketball season. You don't want to miss out on it. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not already subscribed. Along with that, if you haven't seen already, we do offer membership tiers here on the channel. You guys have heard me talk about these already, so I'm just going to run through them very quickly. We have 3 tiers for every price range or every budget. You get perks and benefits with all of them. Just pick the one that suits you best, and I promise you'll enjoy it. Whatever one fits your budget the best. I'm forever grateful for you if you decide to do that. I'll go through them real quick. Number 1 is the casual fan. This one's only $2.99 a month. You get access to a members-only chat room, loyalty badges, priority responses on videos like this, or just any comment that you leave on the channel. Number 2 is the diehard fan. This one is $9.99 a month. You'll get members-only videos, early video access to the normal content on the channel, a free sticker just like this. You can see it. I'll send that directly to you, obviously free of charge, and you'll get in-video shout-outs like I'm sure you'll see here tonight. And then the highest tier level for $24.99 is the absolute caveman tier. You'll not only receive everything from the first 2 tiers, but you'll receive members-only podcasts, Q&A sessions. You'll have direct input on what the channel produces, what type of videos do you like, things like that. Exclusive interviews that I'm going to be setting up with people around UK, whether that be former or current players. If I can get a coach, great. Just media personality, people you may know from Twitter, other UK podcasts, just whatever. And then along with that, you'll also get a Wildcat Cave shirt, very, very similar to this one, sent directly to you. So if you haven't already subscribed, go and do that for me now. And if you have subscribed, look into those membership tiers, pick the one that fits you best and the perks you want the most, and sign up now. Also, in this live stream, you can also do the super chats, the super thanks, and the stickers. I believe those come in all different price ranges, ranging from maybe $1 up. So if you like what we're talking about tonight, you have an opinion, if you just want your comment seen priority, go ahead and send one of those through the chat too. I get a notification, you'll get a shout out, and we'll have a good night. We already got some comments rolling in. What's the bourbon you're drinking? That is Monk's Road still. I believe I still had this bottle in the last live stream. It's Monk's Road. It's by, I believe, Log Still, maybe, or Whiskey Thief, one of the two. And you said, oh, you guys got your shirts and you love them. Good. I'm glad you guys love your shirts. See, one member for the Caveman tier already signed up, got their shirts, got their perks. So you guys should sign up as well. The Kentuckian says, I've sent you an email earlier today about the sticker. Awesome. I checked my email this morning, but I haven't checked it recently. When we hop off here, I'll check my email again, and I'll get that sticker sent to you probably tomorrow. So you should have it by the end of the week. No bad luck. Anyway, so now that we got all the housekeeping stuff taken care of, like I said, the super chat, thanks, and stickers are all available in the chat. If you guys want to donate or just, help the channel out, it all is super appreciated. So I do appreciate if you choose to, obviously send any of those through. So getting into some football stuff, like I said, we're a third of the way through the season. Before we do that, I guess we haven't drank yet. So cheers. Whew, that's how you start a podcast. Okay. So we're a third of the way through the season. Kentucky's 4-0. I don't think there's any big surprises there. I think that's where everybody kind of expected us to end up at this point, or at least hoped us to. I don't know what you say. I think a lot of people still have a lot of questions about this team. We've won all 4 games. We've covered the spread in 3 of them. So on one hand, there's not a ton to be upset about. But on the other hand, we haven't looked super competent all the way through any of them. So what do we think? Let's just go through Kentucky's first 4 games. First game is Ball State against Kentucky at Kentucky. Obviously, Kentucky wins 44-14. That game's a little misleading. Barrion Brown had a kickoff return for a touchdown, and I think the defense scored a touchdown in that one. So the offense really didn't live up. They started off really slow. The narrative around this team all year really has been how slow their starts have been, and that was just the first one. But overall, defense kind of took care of business on it, but the offense really struggled. People were criticizing Leary pretty hard. When he misses bad. You know, he doesn't have just close misses. He misses 20 yards over their head. Now, a lot of that has to do with drops, which we'll talk about here in a little bit too, but not a great start for Kentucky, but they did cover the spread. And then in the second game, the one I've been telling you guys all summer would be a tough one for Kentucky because it always is EKU. Whenever they come to Kroger Field, it is always a close game for whatever reason. They're not as good as Kentucky, and they don't have the talent, but they always seem to hang around when they play here. They ended up losing, or EKU ended up losing, obviously, 28-17. Another game where the defense kind of did their part. I think 17 was probably too much to give up to EKU, considering they got bounced by Cincinnati in the first game. But overall, you can't be mad if your defense holds the teams to 17. You got to be able to win that game. Of course, they did, but it just wasn't very pretty. It was a grinded out. We were all nervous in the third and fourth quarter, which is not something you want against a team like EKU. Then week number 3, Akron comes to town, probably the worst team they're going to play all year. And that Kentucky did what they were supposed to against them, beat them 35-3. Again, the slow starts just plague this team for some reason. They can never seem to come out firing at this point in the season and just really hit somebody in the mouth and keep the pedal down the entire way through the game. But like I said, 3 cupcake teams, 3 wins, 2 covers. It's hard to be upset about that. And then we have Vandy this past Saturday at Vandy, of course, in their construction zone of a stadium. Kentucky, for the first time all season, comes out, puts the hammer down on a team that they are better than, gets out to a 21-point lead, I believe. Then they kick a field goal and then go up 20, or no. They score, then we kick a field goal, go into half 24-7. At no point in time did we ever feel like the game was slipping away or, we're going to lose to Vandy. But it was also never, outside of the first quarter, never their dominating performance that we all hope to see. Now, there was one player that had a dominating performance, and that was Maxwell Hairston on the defense. He had 2 pick sixes in the game, the first Kentucky player to ever do that in any game. Oh, we're missing a light. Hopefully that looks a little better for you guys. But we have some comments. We'll hop into them real quick, and then we'll get back to it. Let's see. Great Kentucky, and if we had success last year, fans would be ecstatic. However, after years of slowly building up, I think we're all looking for the next step, which is dominating smaller teams. That's probably true, but if you look at it on paper, we look good. Our numbers compared to other teams are really good. The SEC in general isn't great this year. So we're not the only people struggling, but you are correct. Probably had we went something like 9-3 last season, there might not be this really hard urge to come out and start rolling these teams. And I think also as Kentucky fans, we need to temper expectations when it comes to these bad games and these lesser teams. Mark Stoops is almost never going to be the coach to run the score up on a team. He'll hop out to that 21-point lead. And then for better or for worse, and I think for worse, he will pull against his offensive coordinator and tell him to run the ball, grind it out. And the thing about Kentucky this year is I don't know that they're a grinded out team. They are a team like Kentucky really hasn't seen in the past. They are a chunk play team. They are a get big burst, big yardage plays team. I heard this past week before Vandy that against Akron, the total offensive yards, I don't know what the total number was, but half of those came on only 4 offensive plays which, depending on how you look at it, is either really good or really bad. It can be really good because you can gain that many yards on 4 plays, and you are that explosive team that Stoops has just honestly never had. Or you could say that's really terrible that outside of 4 plays, we really didn't move the ball a whole lot. So whichever, if you're a glass half full or a glass half empty, I think it's weird for us. We've had 8 years of a running back that has guaranteed us 2 or 3 yards per run, and we don't have that this year, along with the offensive line. So it's going to be a different team. This team's going to be, punches and bunches. When they get rolling, they're hard to stop. But when they are stopped and they're cooled down, they're hard to get going. So the stats say you want to be an explosive team that can hit big plays. But I think most fans want to see us just dominate. And when you're the type of team that has those big plays, you don't dominate like you do if you're more of a grinded out team. If Kentucky plays Florida how they have been playing and Florida comes out how they did against UT, it will be a rough day. Maybe, but show me the stats that Florida's doing a whole lot better. We'll talk about Florida here in a little bit, but show me the stats that Florida has just been world beaters. I mean, yeah, if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a good Christmas, but that's not the case. And Florida has had 3 games where they didn't play very well and one where they did. And you could argue Kentucky's had, I guess, 3 dominating wins covering the spread. So show me the stats that says that Florida's the better team, because personally, I don't think they are, but we'll see. And then you say, I agree, especially with Texas coming to the SEC next year, would be low-key embarrassing if they smack around SEC teams first year there. Yeah, it would, but the SEC looks pretty rough. Bama don't seem to be what they were. Georgia's still good, of course, but they look like they've taken a step back. Probably still the best team in the country, but they don't look great. It's not going to be a great look for the SEC if Texas and Oklahoma come in and just start dog walking everybody. I don't think they will. I think they'll have success, and it'll be good success. It's not going to be 7-5 success, like just getting to a bowl game. I think they can come in and really contend, but it also depends on how they break up these pods and who plays who every year and that kind of thing. It says, you're right about Stoops slowing the game when we're ahead. They should only happen if we're up 21 points by the start of the fourth quarter. I'm with you, man. I've always been the guy that says, if you don't want us to run up the score, stop us. And I'll keep my starters in the whole game. Not really. Of course, you take them out so they don't get hurt. But I've never understood this mindset of we're up 2 touchdowns, we're going to grind it out. There's a lot of game to be played in a half or 3 quarters. I'm with you. If it was me, if we're not up 35, I'm not slowing down. I like I said, if you don't want the score ran up on you, stop it. If you can't stop it, you don't get to complain. Colorado learned that this weekend. You don't get to run your mouth and then go get smacked around a little bit. Matthew Gum. I thought after the Vandy game, they said on the radio broadcast that the offensive line started rotating in subs after the 21-0 start and rotated in 11 guys. They did. They definitely did. And I think that is a direct correlation between what was our offensive line? Eric Wolford, I believe, that went to Alabama. He rotated almost nobody and has set this offensive line group back probably 3 to 4 years. Before, when Schlarman was here, he constantly got young guys reps when he could. That way, when those guys stepped into starting roles, it was immediate. There was almost no, learning curve for them. They felt comfortable. They knew what to do. They could handle it. They knew their assignments. But Wolford didn't do that. And because of that, these young guys, you saw it last year, and it's getting better this year. They're getting these reps in now, but we're still building back up to that big blue wall that we've all been really accustomed to. So I think we're getting there, but they did play 11 offensive linemen, which is honestly a ton. But I think Horsey's coming back this week. I know he's supposed to be coming back for the past 2 weeks, but I feel good. All the words coming out around him is that he's good. So hopefully he comes back. I think they moved Jagger back to center, which I don't honestly understand, and we'll talk about that in a second too. But that is definitely something to keep an eye on with how much rotation they're doing and how poorly they've been playing. Notice how Alabama's having offensive line issues now. I didn't make that correlation, but good call. Yeah, Alabama's not the Alabama of old. Their offensive line don't dominate. They don't run the ball the way they used to. Their quarterback situation's a different problem, but that is true. Once Wolford got there, I mean, I guess it's taken a year, but their offensive line has really taken a step back, and their whole program has possibly taken a step back. Only time will tell on that, but it seems like the dynasty may be slowing down. But I think this is a good time to pause. So let's talk about the struggles so far. Early season struggles. Like we just said, the interior offensive line, specifically the two guards and center. The tackles have been fine for the most part. I believe Eli Cox and Marcus Cox are the tackles. They seem to have been doing okay. Or no, Eli Cox was the center. Who am I thinking? Y'all let me know in the comments who our right guard is. Flax, maybe. They've been doing okay. Like I said, Jagger, after the Akron game, I don't know how we could have considered keeping him there. I've heard nothing but good things about this kid, that he's just the best person in the world. But honestly, he's struggling. I don't know that he's a center by trade. I think that's something more of a learned position for him. And then just bad snaps and timely penalties and just overall poor play from him. Against Akron, he was the worst rated player on Kentucky by Pro Football Focus, only below Dane Key. But our offensive line, like I said, we've been so accustomed to just guaranteeing 3 or 4 yards a run and really just having the big blue wall there to back us, that we just don't have that now. So we as a fan base and we as a team need to get around the idea that we're not going to have that this season. And it's up to Liam Cohen to scheme around those deficiencies. But you've seen it. Ray Davis is not quite C-Rod. I think there's things he does better than C-Rod and Benny, but running up the gut might not be it, especially with this offensive line that he's behind. So there's definitely some struggles there. Some stuff that may or may not be able to be cleaned up, quite frankly. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Florida ranks higher than Kentucky in total yards. I don't care about total yards. That doesn't matter to me, especially when it's less than 100 through 4 games. Yards per game, that's the same statistic. And rushing yards per game. Yeah, Florida's very much a bread and butter run team. They are committed to the run like everyone says they are. Florida's definitely more of a running team than Kentucky. Kentucky's thrown for over 60% of their plays. Cohen stressed that he wants to get back to Kentucky being a running team like they have been in the past. I don't know how much I believe that, but yeah, you're going to have more rushing yards per game just simply by scheme. Kentucky's not a dominant rushing team that they have been in past years. This team's going to rely mostly on Devin Leary. So find me some stats that actually show they're better, because right now I don't think you have, old Bert. Jagger is right now. Yeah, I assume you mean center. I believe they moved him back to center. Again, that's a decision I don't quite understand. I don't think that's where he's most comfortable. I think the whole idea to put him as center was so Eli Cox could be more comfortable. But honestly, I think we were just better. I think Leary took 1 sack against Vanderbilt. He had a few rushes and maybe a knockdown in here and there. But overall, the offensive line looked better against Vanderbilt than they have against the other bad teams. So I don't know why we made the choice to switch them back all of a sudden. I'm going to defer to Stoops and Cohen on that one. They know better than I do. It just is a little puzzling to me. The next early season struggle that I see, and hopefully this is one that can get fixed, is the penalties. I believe I said in my last video, Kentucky was like the ranked 130 something out of 100, like maybe 132 out of 133 in penalized teams, meaning they get penalized more than every other team basically. So that's obviously not a good look. One thing I never thought I'd have to say about a Mark Stoops coach team or a Vince Marrow or a Brad White coach team or a Liam Cohen coach team is that they were undisciplined. And in every game this season, this team has looked just undisciplined. And honestly, a lot of that's been on the line. You have holding calls and you have, effort calls where you're going 100 mile an hour and you make a mistake. And I can live with those. But what I can't have is Josh Caddis having 2 offsides that bring back touchdowns or holding calls. I'm sorry. Jagger on a touchdown gets 1 called back. And if we are just disciplined on those 3 plays, maybe we look at this entire season differently, because that puts up another 21 points and we probably are like, wow, our offense is really clicking, but we forget about those plays because they didn't show up on the scoreboard or in the box score. So I think maybe this team is a little underrated because of that. But either way, these penalties are just discipline and focus penalties, which is usually something with Kentucky we don't have to worry about. We usually have bigger problems like we stink. But this team, and even last year's team to some extent, has really struggled with discipline and just focus, I guess. I don't know what else it could be. Especially on offense, and offsides on offense will always boggle my mind. You know the play and the snap count. How are you the one jumping offsides? I've never understood it. Never have, and I probably never will. I can understand holds here and there, and yes, it sucks when they're on big plays, but that happens. Still frustrates me because they happen too often. But hold is an effort play, as the word jumping off sides is just a lapse of focus, and we can't have that. We're not good enough to overcome that all season, so we have to be more sharp. The O-line is definitely taking a hit in experience and skill. Coach Yinzer had issues last year, but he managed to convince Stoops that he is good. If the struggle keeps up, expect him to be fired. See, part of me wonders, is it coaching? Is it Yinzer that is not getting these guys right spots and they don't know their assignments and this and that? Or, like I said, is it Wolford who really did set this team back, and now none of these guys were ready to step into the positions they're in? Now, we did return, I think all 5 of our starting offensive linemen have started Division I college football. So they all have experience. So maybe last year, I guess we could probably put on Yinzer. This year, I think you could be correct. Or I'm sorry, on Wolford last year. This year, I think you almost have to put on Coach Yinzer if it doesn't get better. I don't know that he'll be fired because there has been improvement from last year, but we're going to need to see that pick up a little bit. Then the third thing, like I touched on earlier, is our drop passes. Just against Vanderbilt alone, we had 4 drop balls. Dane had one, a really, really poor one from Dane, an embarrassing one from Brendan Bates. I believe Barryon had 2. So, while Devin Leary, like I said, when he misses big. But when the ball, it looks really bad when his percentage is only a 51% completion rate, but that doesn't take into account the 6 drop passes that hit the guys in their hands and should be catches. If they make those, I did the math against Vanderbilt. Devin Leary finished with a 53% completion percentage, I believe. If those 4 dropped passes that were just 100% on the receivers were caught, that bumps that percentage up to 69%. So we would be looking at Devin Leary completely different. His biggest thing with me is the sailing ball. I don't understand that. I don't know if he's not driving through his throws or what exactly is going on with those. But he's got to get that, way over receivers' heads, 15, 20 yards down the field. We got to get that, honed in, because against these bad teams, they didn't pick them off sometimes. Now, sometimes they did, but the better the competition we play, Georgia's going to have a safety sitting behind everybody. They're going to have somebody back there ready to get that tip ball or that just air ball. So he's got to clean that up on his end. But the drop passes are doing nobody any favor. Dane has got to get out of his head. And while I can, let me just touch on Dane real quick, because I love Dane. He obviously had a great freshman season, but nothing can drive me more crazy than when I see somebody struggle and do absolutely nothing and contribute nothing to the game, even take away things from the game, and then do one thing and want to talk to the other team or run his mouth or showboat or do whatever. Like when Dane caught that touchdown and patted the dude on the head, hilarious. Yes, I love that. But you also had a drop pass and you haven't been good all season. Don't get arrogant now. Have a good game. I hope you catch all the touchdowns. Prove yourself before you start talking. But other than that, I don't mind him patting the dude on the head. I thought it was pretty funny. But like I said, it just bugs me when he struggled all year, makes one catch, and then wants to taunt people, because teams could have been doing that to him all season long. And I'm sure they have been. We just didn't see it. but I don't know. It just bugs me when people do that. Or when the quarterback throws it out of bounds and then the defender is walking around like, waving his arms like he made that play when he did. And that stuff just bugs me. And I had to bring Dane up because he did exactly that, honestly. And then the final thing, this isn't a big one. Like I said, our defense, I think, has played really, really well so far this year. I know we let up 28 to Vandy, but one of those touchdowns when we were up 3 touchdowns, one was against our backups. So I'm not too concerned there. They held Vanderbilt really well on third down, which is something we also struggled with this year. So overall, I'm not too mad at the defense. But what I will say is we have a linebacking core that we thought would be really, really good. Now, we did lose a lot, obviously, with Square and Jones last year, but we still have J.J. Weaver and we have Trevin Wallace, who in the first game looked really, really good. Trevin did, not necessarily J.J., but now they've kind of disappeared. Both of them have. And maybe that's a good thing that our defensive line and secondary is making so many plays, but we've got to see these guys step up. Brad White even kind of called J.J. out. He has been super quiet all year, hasn't made a ton of plays. So that's a guy we need to get going. If we can get J.J. Weaver running downhill and making the plays, and Trevin Wallace returns to making 12 tackles a game like he did against Ball State, then I think this defense will be just fine. I'm not really too worried about them overall. But if there was one weakness right now, I do think it's the linebacking core just coming downhill and making plays. The area that I'm surprised by is our secondary. I've said it all summer that I thought our secondary would be thin, and I don't know how good they are. But so far, Maxwell Harrison has shown that he is that dude, and the rest of the secondary has been doing whatever they need to do to keep balls from going in the end zone. So hats off to our secondary coach. I know Stoops, that's kind of his focus. That's what that's what he came up in coaching and is in that position. So I'm sure he's had a hand in it too. But, our secondary's really come alive, which may be the reason our linebackers haven't had to do as much. But, shout out to our secondary on that one. Is there any other struggles you guys have seen? If so, leave them in the comment section. Like I said, we're about halfway through this live stream, so it's a good time as any to say, first off, cheers. And second, just to say, subscribe to the channel, please, please, please. Let's get to 1,000 before we play Tennessee. Hell, let's get to 1,000 before we play Florida. I don't care. Let's just get there. If you're not subscribed and you're watching this live, do it right now. If you are watching on playback, pause it right now. I'll give you a minute. Go do that. I'll literally actually give you 30 seconds here. I'm going to put on a 30-second countdown. Go ahead, subscribe to the channel, check out the memberships. I'll see you back here in 30 seconds. Do it. Are you subscribed? Good. That's what I like to hear. Like I said, go subscribe right now. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on community posts and stuff like that. Speaking of community posts, every week I've been doing a contest. The Cook, his last name is Cook. He on here, the Great Kentuckian. You guys know that we've been doing the guess the correct score for a chance at a sticker. Again, if you didn't see at the beginning, that is the sticker. So after this video, I will go post my prediction and give you guys a chance to put yours in the comments of that post. It'll be on my channel. Just click on the community tab. You'll find it, or it might show up on your YouTube home screen. But either way, go there. Leave your comments of what you think the final score is. Please include the winning team, obviously. I feel like that should go without saying, but you never know. But leave your comments. Whoever's the closest will win a sticker. Again, I'll have you email me, and I'll send it directly to you the next day. Now, we do have some comments here. Let's see. A struggle I've seen is that somewhat not mentioned in the punting group. The punter is too slow getting the kicks off. It does seem like we've had a lot of close calls, but listen, The best thing you can say about a special teams group is that you didn't know they were in the game or you don't know their names. And so far, I don't think I know our punter's name. Maybe I do. If you said it, I'd probably know it. But so far, I don't think we've had any blocked. I don't love that it takes so long. I know he doesn't have the leg of some of the punters we've had in the past, but he's good enough for me. Hopefully we don't see him a lot because our offense is scoring. So yes, while you may, not like how they do it, at least it's getting off and we're getting off the field without too many mishaps. Overall, I think our special teams are worlds above where we were last year. So if I'm going to critique anything, it's probably not going to be special teams yet. Brett says to share your social media platforms. I don't have a thing for it to pop up on the screen here, but sure, I'll tell you what they are. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it is D_rocks3. I guess it's X now, not Twitter. So D_rocks3 on X. Instagram, I don't really use Instagram, honestly. And then, of course, if you want to follow me on TikTok, go at Wildcat Cave. I haven't posted there in a while, but we get some subscribers. I may do it again. So if you guys like TikTok, go check that out. Otherwise, the best place to find me is on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And that is D_rocks3. Now back to some football. Let's see. All right, we've talked about Kentucky. Let's talk a little bit about Florida. Brett, if you guys watched, go on my channel, go way back to 2 years ago when Florida came here. You can see Brett in the video or here in the comments. When we played them, he is obviously a Florida fan. If you've been on these live streams before, you know that. Let's just break down Florida's first 4 games. They opened the season at Utah and got destroyed. The final score didn't make it look as bad, but it was an absolute shellacking. Nothing about Florida looked good that game. I thought Florida might lose to everybody after that game. They looked terrible. They couldn't get first downs. They couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't move the ball. So at that point, I was extremely confident that we would beat Florida. Extremely confident. I mean, I still am, but they have looked better since. I don't think that game might not have been the best test, but I do think it was at least telling that they're not as good as they had hoped to be. Next, kind of a throwaway game. They destroy McNeese State at home. Congratulations. And then after that, the surprising game, depending on what side you're on, was Tennessee at Florida. Florida obviously pulls off the upset against Tennessee, 29-16. I didn't get a chance to watch the game, but I did catch the highlights. I've looked around at it. Florida, one thing people might not know is that I don't think Tennessee has won in the Swamp in like 20-something years. So while Tennessee's probably the better team, it's kind of like Kentucky and Mississippi State. When we go to Mississippi State, we just can't beat them, and we're always better than them. So it's a little bit of that going on. But it was at least, telling that Florida has it in them to beat a decent team. Let's see. I'm sure Brett don't like that. No, share the YouTube channel to your social media. Oh, that's what you meant. He was telling you guys, not me, to share the channel to your social media. Yeah, if you guys want to do that, that'd be great. Pick your favorite video, your favorite clip. Share it on your social media. Drive as much attention to this channel as we can. You guys will obviously be in on the ground floor of this thing, maybe potentially one day getting really big and blowing up. So that would be great. If you guys feel like you want to do that, it's appreciated for me. And I'll tell you what, if you do it, tag me in it or send it to me. Let me see it somehow that you've done it, and I'll send you a sticker. It don't cost you anything to do. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe or share the channel, but it means the world to me. So I would really appreciate that. The punter is Wilson Berry. Is that? I feel like he's been the punter here for 87 years. Am I wrong? I feel like we've had him for like a long time. I thought for sure he graduated in like 19. Wow. Maybe it is him, but yeah, makes sense. Let's see. Me too. I said in your last live stream, I don't see Florida winning more than 4 games. They went in the red zone and kicked 5 field goals against Charlotte. Yeah, we didn't get to talk about Charlotte. They looked awful. How do you get, 5 field goals? No, that's not right. A touchdown and 4 field goals? That is terrible against Charlotte. I really thought after coming off the Tennessee win, you guys would really just, be hyped up and ready to lay it to them. But that's been a rough one. That has been look, I called it right. Haven't won since 2003, so exactly 20 years since Tennessee's won in the Swamp. But yeah, and then like I said, you beat Tennessee, you're on top of the world. You think, okay, this is where we turn our season around. That Utah game was a fluke, and then you win against Charlotte, which is good, but you keep it relatively close until the very end, and you walk away kind of honestly like Kentucky's felt walking away from most games this season. As Stoops would say, we won, but we're pissed off. So it's hard when you have teams like that. It's hard to judge where they are until they really play people. So we're thinking of Max Duffy and Aussie. Max Duffy was an Aussie. I don't know if Wilson Berry is, honestly. Maybe not. But yeah, when you have two teams that have just not quite shown you anything, really, I mean, I think in both teams you could take clips and glimpses of this team could really compete in the SEC East. And then you could also see glimpses of this team might finish last in the SEC East. So it's hard to tell. I think for both of these teams, maybe more so Kentucky than Florida, we will know more about the Kentucky team after Saturday than all the information we've gathered in the first four games. In Florida, I think you could say the same, except maybe they have that Tennessee game in there, so we know a little bit more about who they could be. But with Kentucky, I still think it's a roll of the dice, man. I don't love that the game's at noon. I'll give you guys my predictions next. But the game's at noon. I don't love that for a home game. It's like I think Kentucky hasn't beaten Florida before 6 p.m. in like a long time, like too long a time, like 25 years sort of time, which of course back then we didn't beat Florida anyway. But noon games are always good for the road team. So it's really going to be on Big Blue Nation and Kentucky this Saturday to show up to Kroger Field at noon and have that place rocking. If you're going to the game, two things. Number one, it's a blue-white game if you haven't seen it. If you're on the home side of the stadium, so student section and over, wear blue. And if you're on the away side, so including the student section and over to the other side, wear white. We did this for Florida 2 years ago. It didn't work perfect, but I was impressed, honestly. Usually, unless the team supplies the T-shirts, they don't go well. It just looks like a clump, a mess, honestly. But we did pretty good last time, so hopefully it's a better showing this time for it. But other than that, number two, I'm going to the game along with Brett here in the chat. So if you see us, obviously, please don't hesitate to say hi. We're friendly, I promise. We won't bite. But also, we're in section 202, so if you're just around that area, you might see us. If you want to come say hi, we're literally, you walk in 202, and we're like the first couple rows, so we'll be hard to miss. We'll be the ones up there acting a fool. He'll be the only Florida fan there, so he'll stand out. So he'll be right next to me. So if you guys want to come say hi, please do. We tailgate privately at a person's house, so I would love one day to set up a tailgate and have everybody meet there, and we can all just do it together. But until we can set that up, I do tailgate at a house nearby, and I just walk over, so I can't just invite everybody to their house, unfortunately. But like I said, we walk over about 30 minutes before the game, so I'll be coming through the orange lot into the front of Kroger Field and heading towards 202. So if you see me, say hi, come up and say hello. I promise you I won't bite, and it'll be cool to meet some of you guys that have been around for a long time. Let's see. Kentucky's had the better QB, proven head coach, and home field advantage. I'm expecting to win. I couldn't agree more. We definitely have the better quarterback, which is actually a cool storyline, as I'm sure most of you all know. Kentucky was about that close to signing Graham Mertz out of Wisconsin, I think. Yeah, Wisconsin sounds right. But yeah, so they came this close to signing Graham Mertz. Devin Leary became available, and we obviously kind of kicked Mertz to the curb, for lack of better terms. And so far, I think it's proven that we've made the right choice. But much like Levis and Richardson last year, it's going to be a storyline. Anthony Richardson last year got all this hype coming into the game, and Levis was, trending up the draft charts, and then they got to meet head to head, and we saw what happened. This year, it's a little different, but all the same, Kentucky had their option at quarterback between the two. We pick Leary. He goes to Florida, and now they get to meet and settle the score. And Brett says, next year, my wife and I plan on getting a parking pass to set up big tailgates. That would be awesome. Yeah, and I'm inviting myself in, and we're inviting the rest of the fans here. By that time, we might have 15,000 subscribers, and we'll just have the biggest party Kroger Field's ever seen, especially for night games when we can get them. I am upset, though, that this is a noon game. I was really looking forward to a full day of tailgating, going in, and just, again, having the craziest crowd. But like Stoops said, and much like Stoops, I have all the faith in the people of Kentucky to get up early and pound some beers and make it a real home field advantage. So, like I said, I'll be there. I hope to see you guys there. If you're going, please, do the blue-white theme and just make it as rowdy and ruckus and hard on Florida as we can make it. I know if you guys remember the game 2 years ago, Florida had like 9 offsides penalties because they literally couldn't hear the snap count. So if we can do that again, give this team the edge. I think Kentucky's good enough to win it in an empty stadium. But, of course, every advantage that we can get, we want. So we're winding down here. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my prediction on this game. You can drop yours in the comments. Just know that the sweepstakes, the contest for the sticker, is only going to be on the community channel. So even if you guess it exactly correct in these comments, I think, or over here, maybe these comments, just know that will not win you the sticker. You have to go to the community tab on my channel and put your guess in there. Then you will be entered to win. If you do win, I will reach out to you. I'll have you email me like the great Kentuckian said he did today, and I will send you a sticker. So get in on that. So here's my official prediction, and that post will be up directly after this live stream. My prediction, Kentucky wins 27-17. It looks like we're having some Wi-Fi. Oh, we're back. Okay. My prediction is Kentucky wins 27-17. The spread is anywhere from 1 to 3.5 in Kentucky's favor right now. So I think obviously Kentucky covers the spread. I don't think this is a game that any team runs away from or gets a big lead or just, explodes. I think the offense looks better for Kentucky, but the real thing for me is I've seen Florida's offense struggle too much, and I've seen our defense play too well for me to really think that they can outscore us. Now, I know Florida has an okay defense, but I just think we have too many weapons with Tavion, with Ray Davis, with Leary. Dane, I think, is going to have to figure it out at some point along with Barryon, and then Tavion Robinson. So I think we just have too much to throw at them. So I think we're going to win, probably cover. And if we win, we will cover. And then, I think if it comes out and we get a 10-point win, even though it's relatively low scoring, I don't think anybody can be too upset about that. We are exactly where we wanted to be going into Florida or Georgia game, which is a night game in Athens, going to be tough. But I think if we can go 5-0, start the season, we're going to be ranked if we do it. We're going to Athens, maybe game days there. That's all you could have hoped for. You probably lose that game. You take care of business against Missouri at home, and then you go into the bye week 6-1. You're bowl eligible before the bye, and now you have however many games left, 5 games left to really decide how tough how this season is going to be looked at. Because right now there's 8 games left, and I could see any scenario, honestly, from 2-6 to probably 6-2. So any scenario in that range is feasible to me. So it's going to come down to, can these guys put it together and pull out wins and play a 4-quarter football game enough times to where this season is looked favorably upon? Let's see. Great Kentucky, and I think it's a 31-27. Also, SEC Nation will be in Lexington. The real MVP, I think Kentucky wins 21-17. So, yeah, all similar scores. The Kentuckian thinks it's a little high scoring, probably hits the over on the bets. And the real MVP is a little more similar to me, probably hits the under, but covers the spread. So, I don't think any of that's – I think, I could see this being a 21-14. I could see this also kind of being like a 38-31 or something like that. I really think, though, Kentucky's defense is going to be too much for a bad Florida offense. And I think while Kentucky's offense and their defense might be a little closer, I think Kentucky's more talented and we have the better playmakers. As long as they show up ready to play at noon, then I think we'll be okay. It's going to be their first real test, and I think they know that, and Florida's a name that they can all get up for. So I don't think we should come out slow, and they kind of learned how to come out fast last week. They just got to be able to sustain it better. But overall, if you tell me Florida comes in and plays their A game and Kentucky comes in and plays their A game, I think Kentucky wins. So I think we should be okay. Brett has Florida winning in overtime 35-28. Seems like a homer pick to me, but hey, you do you, buddy. And if that is the case, we're not riding back together. We just aren't. So deal with it. I'm walking. I don't care. But that is my prediction. Now, we'll also get into some fun stuff here. Sports gambling becomes legal this week in Kentucky. It's Thursday, if you didn't know. So if you partake in that sort of thing, here are my top 3 bets of the week. Number 1, I have Vandy plus 13 against Missouri. If you're telling me Vanderbilt, who I believe beat Missouri last year at Missouri, is playing them at home this year, and you're giving me 13 points, I'm taking Vanderbilt. I don't know that they win. They probably don't. Missouri's ranked for whatever unknown reason that could be. You beat Kansas State on a crazy field goal, and all of a sudden you're world beaters, I guess. But if you're telling me Vandy's at home, I don't think Vandy's terrible. They throw the ball around really well. They have a good receiver, an okay quarterback. Everything else probably needs some updates, but, Mizzou's not great either, regardless that they're ranked. I don't think they're very good. So if you're telling me I get Vanderbilt at home and they can lose by 12.5 points or less, then I'm taking that all day. I think that's a pretty good bet. Also, don't take this as any sort of advice for legal reasons. I'm not an expert. This is just what I would tell you to do, and sports gambling becomes legal on Thursday. So I'm going to place a few bets. If you want to do that, if you want to hit the Wildcat Cave parlay, I don't know what the odds on all this would be, but do it. Let me know. And if it hits, split your winnings with me. Okay, number 2, Bama minus 14.5 at Mississippi State. I know they didn't have a great game against Ole Miss, but they did cover. And Mississippi State might be the second worst team in the SEC next to Vanderbilt. I think they are not very good at all. And I know 14.5 is a lot. But I think Bama rolls them. I think they've heard the chatter about how they're not very good. Nick Saban's still there. I'm not betting against the Tide until they give me a reason to. Even though they do look like they're on the decline, I'm not betting against them. Give me Bama minus 14.5. I think they blow out Mississippi State. And then finally, Ole Miss LSU, take the over at 67. If you can get it lower than that, great. But that's just what it was when I saw it. I don't remember what the spread was. I think 2.5. So really Vegas kind of thinks this is like a 35-33 game or 35-31 game, something like that, 32. So high scoring, but not a very big spread. I think both of these offenses are pretty explosive, and I think both of the defenses are average. So LSU's shown that they're vulnerable, and they're not, dominant like we thought they would be. And Ole Miss is never a bad team, and they have something to prove coming off the loss to Alabama. So I think both teams come out and score quite a bit of points. I don't know who wins. It's close. I think it's like number 13 versus number 20. Spread's 2.5. It's at Ole Miss. So who really knows who wins the game? I could see it going either way, but I do think it is high scoring. So let's hop back in the comments real quick before we wrap this thing up. DraftKings also has a load of $200 promo codes. Just saying, yes, there are a bunch of them. The one I know of, the one I use is KSR. Obviously, I listen to Kentucky Sports Radio. That's their promo code, but it does get you all the cool promos and perks that they partnered with them. So if you sign up, you'll get $200 in bets. You can do one $200 bet, or you can do 8 $25 bets. It doesn't matter. But the minimum bet is $25. But you get to keep the winnings if you win. So that's all good. Yeah, with sports gambling becoming legal now, expect to see a lot more stuff about that from me. I'm not a huge gambler, but I'll put $5 on a game here and there. So I might make some, I guess the YouTube shorts here. Just showing my bets and what I think about the spreads and over-unders, especially if there's one I think I can make money on. I'll share it with you guys free of charge. But there also, if you sign up for the memberships, there'll be a lot more of that sort of stuff for only the paid members. So, look into that. And I think that's a good segue into our last cheers of the night. So, unless you guys have anything else, throw it in the comments section there. And, I appreciate you guys. As always, subscribe. Like I said, I'll post that community post directly after logging off of here. So check back in for that. And then other than that, subscribe to the channel, sign up for a membership, subscribe, share it with your friends, post it on your social medias, all that good stuff. But other than that, I will see you guys next time. Come see me at the game, section 202. Go Cats.